Hello and welcome to Current Wave. I'm your host, Ayla Wayman, and in this podcast, we meander through our shared delusions and stumble into ethereal shit-talking as we dive into the waves of the human experience. I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you enjoy the ride. Hello, welcome. I am driving right now from Los Angeles to Sedona, Arizona, and really reflecting on my past 2 weeks, integrating a lot of things that I've learned and done, and was really wanting to continuously clarify what Inner Prism is and this work that I do and support people with, as I'm constantly studying and bettering my own knowledge and self and using this process again and again to up-level and create the life of my wildest dreams. And I'm personally really at another threshold. I have been feeling a lot of energy come into my life for quite some time, and a lot of things like pressing against me as they become real and as they enter into my psyche first and my physical world second, because it really starts within, I think, and then we get to see those external results. And I've done this and tracked this process for many years, and now this is what I share within Inner Prism. And I want to just go into some elements that I've been percolating on with my second launch, and it's so amazing and interesting to be able to talk with so many women and learn more about the human psyche and how it works and creates, and really be able to see so many places where women are stepping into their purpose, their power, their ease, their flow, their creative selves, and how many people continuously stay stuck in situations and creations that they really don't want and really don't serve them or speak to them. And I think that those situations are always there. You know, we're often faced with an obstacle or a challenge or something, yet we get to decide how long we play in that loop. And I just am really, especially this round, the first round, I really feel like there were so many people taking leaps and making moves, and I think that perhaps collectively the world is feeling more and more confusing or uncertain. Yet, this is the time to do the things. I'm wildly optimistic about this moment, and I'll link both a video and another voice note audio in this episode to lean into that optimism, but that is the backdrop for which I am bringing this work forward. I really think that we have more opportunities than we've ever had. Humanity is at such a peak before we sort of embark into this next stage that does have a lot of unknowns, and there are real challenges that we face. It's not to negate those things, but it's really to look at this moment with a deeper question of who we are and why we're here. Because when we orient toward that, it gives this life so much purpose and meaning and creativity and capacity and a path. It provides us a path when we set our sights toward something that is grounding and orienting and generative. And so, yeah, I just want to share more about all of this because it's really important, and I love supporting women in this work, and it's been really incredible to work with the women who are willing to see past their own limitations and fears and get out of their own way in order to create. And that's not an easy thing to do, but I am really committed to it myself, and also myself can get caught in loops that I'm attached to for one reason or another. And so because I have this experience, because I have this tendency, this is one way I'm able to really support others, is seeing that pattern and knowing it for what it is, and supporting other women and stepping out of that and stepping away from that as I do that in my own level of where I'm at. So the last 2 weeks I have been in the Los Angeles area visiting some really close friends, and one of my close friends is also a business collaborator, a visionary, someone who I love working with. We have done a lot together over this past year. We actually are at like the 1 year anniversary of us creating and launching her signature course, which is called Ignite Investing Academy, and it is a program that teaches women how to invest their own money, take responsibility for their own finances, and really up-level their net worth and their money, and really understand the ins and outs of investing and what they're doing, and ensure that they are invested optimally. And it's an incredible program and something that I highly recommend. If you're interested, actually ping me, because there is a once-in-a-lifetime promotion going on for the next 2 weeks. And especially if you have a job, if you have a 401k or an IRA or any investment or retirement accounts, if you have a financial advisor who's managing those accounts, any of that, you will guaranteed make your money back from this course. You will have just such a better understanding of what you're doing. And this is a slight tangent, but it's really important. And so, yeah, if you're listening to this and you have questions, ping me, because I can really hook you up right now for the next little bit. And what else? Yeah, so I am working with this friend, and when we're together, we're obsessed with business building. We're obsessed with self-development, and we have grown her business in an unbelievable way over the past year together, and that's been a really powerful experience for the two of us. And we're always curious and interested about what's going on in our own worlds and how can we grow and expand. So in this past week, we have been reading and listening to the book called 10x is easier than 2x. And this book is a game changer that I think is in the process of revolutionizing my entire life and really putting things into a framework and perspective that I've already felt, I'm already working to work within, and yet this is really just clarifying that. And I'm going to be really bringing a lot more of this framework and this understanding and this mindset into Inner Prism, because I think that there's some things that I've been avoiding in my own work or just not seeing. I think that often we have our own blind spots and our own places that we have to come to in the right moment through the right lens to see properly and to be able to shift or transform. So I'm working on adding more and more clarity to the work that I do in Inner Prism, because I believe in it wholeheartedly, and it takes time to be able to translate an offer into language and into an experience and a position that people want to opt into. So I've been so blessed having so many of you opt in and join, and yet it's really at its beginning stages. I have been working on Inner Tide for 3 years, yet this iteration of Inner Tide, and specifically Inner Prism, has only been around for about 6 months, which is a very small amount of time from a business perspective. So I think that everything that I've accomplished so far and created so far really makes sense within that time space, and I'm ready for the next level. So you are able to be a part of that with me. And one of those things that I want to do is really be able to articulate what it is we do in Inner Prism. Like, what is this? And why would you want to be a part of it? And so I'm driving and just thinking about this and have desire to share as I'm coming up with some of the answers to my own questions. So Inner Prism is a 3-month transformational growth program that's really designed to create the foundation and framework to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And I really created this program because this is what I've done for the past decade. And when I really went into myself as I'm working to clarify my gifts and the things I'm here to share and support others with, I was like, the thing that is consistent no matter what I'm doing, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm working on, is I'm always creating a vision, and I'm always creating a path and a framework in order to reach that vision and make it real. And this is something I've been doing since I was about in high school, like really, the first iterations of that, where I really wanted to go to a college in New York City and was really visionary about that process. And I went to Sarah Lawrence College and made that happen. And so I've been endeavoring toward these visions for many years, and working in fashion and working for brands. I've done a lot of different things that I don't share super publicly because in part I work on a lot of other people's businesses, and that is often, private, as it's not necessarily my work. I really support founders from the inside in making their visions real. And so this is something I've done personally and professionally for about 15 years. And through that process, I've found tools and systems. I've tried so many different things because in those early years, you're in so much pain, honestly. Like, there's so much pain and frustration and angst and agony of having these ideas and visions of what you want your life to be and not yet knowing how to bring them into being. And so I've studied with so many teachers, I've studied many lineages, many practices, and what Inner Prism really is bringing the things that have been the most consistent, the things that have actually moved the needle, the things that have really worked in bringing my vision to life, and condensing them into one 3-month program that helps you do the same. And it's really, really powerful. It's really potent, and the more I do this work, the more I believe in it. And so I want to articulate that better. And what was really coming to me when I'm asking some of these deeper questions about, like, what is Inner Prism and what is the value of this program? What does it actually help people do? I've talked introductionally about what that looks like, but there's a few things that really stand out, and these are like the 3 pillars of Inner Prism that I do share but want to continue to share in more clear and concise ways. So the first one is clarity and claiming desire, right? I think that a lot of people get stuck. Like, this is one of the biggest stuck points I see again and again, and in my own self, is not knowing what we want. And when we don't know what we want, it's very hard to make a path forward, because there's no goal, there's no vision, there's no embodied state that we're moving toward. We're just in confusion. And confusion is definitely something that I think comes in when we're unwilling to decide, and we're pushing away things that we don't want to see. I think it often feels very real, but it's definitely a coping mechanism that I think keeps us really stuck, of being like, well, I don't know what direction to go. Should I go to grad school? Should I get a job? Should I do this? Should I do that? There's always going to be choices, and like often the more choices, the harder decisions feel when it feels endless. So the first step is really creating clarity. Like, what is it that you want? And a really defining thing within this is not only defining what we want, but really moving away from what we need. I know a lot of teachers who say this. I also believe this, that the universe doesn't really give us what we need. It gives us what we want. And not only does it give us what we want, it often reflects to us what we are. And that's often can be a hard pill to swallow when our external reality is not what we want. And that is not to victim shame or say like people deserve, the external circumstances that are presented to them. This is in twofold. One, often our external world is reflecting aspects of us, and that's not all aspects of us. One tiny hidden part of your psyche might be really being reflected in your external world in order for you to see it and then work with it, transform it, move it, change it, be with it in a new way. So every challenge that's being presented is usually the premier opportunity in your life. And so when you are seeing things that are not the reality you desire, so maybe you really desire a business or an amazing job and that's just not happening, there are pieces of you that have beliefs or thoughts or resistance. I want to say resistance. I'm moving away from using the word blocks because I think that is a very harsh word and very limiting in a sense. So I think resistance is a really good one. I mean, truly, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, when I work with someone, they're saying one thing and yet the reality is another. And so, that's where we can get in our own way and have all of our own blind spots. Very common, nothing to have shame or guilt or anything about, just something to look at and work with, because there are just so many things, there's so many opportunities, there's so much that you can work with if you're willing to put down the story that you're doing all of the things. And this, I'm saying, it takes one to know one. I'm only able to share this knowledge because this is me, this is my path, this is what I've come up against time and again. And every single time I'm having a challenge externally, it's a reflection of something that is happening internally. And where that becomes tricky is that most of the time, these are somewhere hidden in the unconscious. It is not our conscious selves. Our conscious minds might be positive, might be really on it, with the vision that we're holding. And yet there's usually unconscious resistance that is keeping us at arm's length from this vision that we hold in our mind's eye. And I still find myself in moments like fighting my coaches and my mentors around this and being like, no, I want this thing. Like, I'm not blocking it. I want this. And yet when I really sit with myself and really go in, I find that resistance. I find those old stories that are still running the show. And when I speak with other people and in my coaching practice, I usually can hear and see where those blocks are for them really quickly. And that's really uncomfortable. And that's why I really want to work with people who want to change and transform. Because to really change and transform and create a completely new world and outlook, you absolutely have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to look at yourself. You have to be willing to change and drop your stories, because our stories are the number one thing that keeps us stuck, in my opinion. So it's sticky, but in all of this, like, this is the gold. This is the gold. And so most of the time, clarity is something that people are seeking, that is something they need, and is somewhere in them. And clarity is all about just seeing and knowing and understanding the next step. Because the whole vision is not going to be shown to you. That's not how the universe works. That's not how God works. That's not how your plan unfolds. Your plan unfolds when you align with your desire, claim the things that you want, and step on the path. The path only becomes clear when we're walking on it. We really mostly only get the next step, or maybe a few steps. And usually when we take the next, the ones that we thought we knew after shift a little bit, because reality changes as we change, as we step into it more and more and create the path unfolds. So clarity comes through action. Clarity comes through really sitting with a deeper truth and moving forward, even when we're scared, even when it doesn't feel like we can see the full picture, because that's sort of a false premise. So there's many paradoxes in this work, and the more we can get comfortable with those paradoxes, the more we can really create and really change things. So yes, we're seeking clarity, we're seeking a defined vision to move toward, and we're moving before we have all the pieces. We're moving with maybe just one piece. We're moving with a few things, because also when we get talking, when we get into this work, it becomes very clear that there's some standout things that people desire. There's some standout wants. There's some things that they do know. And they're often just avoiding it, have habits of suppressing what they really want. There's a lot there. So we get into all of that. So the first pillar is really around clarity and finding the courage to move forward, even with just one piece of a giant puzzle that you never solve. The second is all about energetics and subconscious reprogramming. These are wildly popular in the zeitgeist right now, and that's for good reason, because this is the work and this is what works. There's many methodologies to this. I have studied several over the years of how to move and work with the subconscious mind, and this is something that has completely and utterly transformed my own life and the lives of everyone I know. And so I think of this in two combined ways. So energetics is a vast term. It's thrown around. There's a lot of ways to use it because it covers a lot of different things. I come at it from a Kundalini perspective, and energetics to me is working with the energy of creation, the energy of all that you can see, feel, hear, sense, all of our senses, working with the 10 bodies. So I work with energetics through the 10 bodies, through the Kundalini lineage, and really understanding that the physical body is just one of 10. And so when we understand that, yes, we are physical beings in a physical world, but everything is vibration, everything is locked into other realms, and the bodies and the 10 bodies are how we can tap into those other realms. It really unlocks a key, because very simply put, and this is a quote from Bashar, you cannot see what you are not an energetic match to. And really on this trip, I got just extra confirmation of the way we create our reality. Like, I am just convinced over and over and over again. And truly, what we believe about ourselves and the world is what dictates our experience of ourselves and the world. Point blank. And I think I have skirted around this for many years and like don't necessarily say it and step into my own truth and knowing and power around that, because it goes against a lot of things that we're taught. It is radical responsibility, which we have a lot of hesitancy to victim shame or blame in our culture. And I think that we can hold them as separate things. But truly, time and again, I am just shown this is what I see for myself and for everyone I know. Very consistently. You change a belief and your entire world can rearrange in days, minutes, seconds. And I'll give a few little examples of this. So I was in Los Angeles and I saw some friends, and they have my views around existence and life and what is happening on earth have changed a lot in the past few years. And I'm really grateful for that, because it's actually just opened up the world in insane ways, and my life has transformed in beautiful ways, moving from sort of this much more pessimistic approach to like extreme optimism of what we're doing here and what our capabilities are. And I think we barely even know. But I was with some friends in LA that have a really different worldview than me. And in their worldview, and I think this is a worldview that a lot of people are holding right now, I don't know, it's half and half. I know a lot of people who are not holding this worldview, so I want you to know that you have a choice. Yeah, they have a very pessimistic worldview that like humanity is fucked and everything is going to shit, that humans are kind of like inherently flawed and bad and like mistaken, and that we're really in a downward spiral that has some hope, but not a lot of hope, with global warming, with climate change, with social issues, with the American president, with the financial system, etc. And they have a doom and gloom outlook, and they're living in a reality that reflects them back to that. You know, our brain has cognitive bias that is looking for evidence of our beliefs. So when we change our beliefs, we change what we see. It is just a neuroscience thing. It is continuously studied and proven to be so. And that makes reality feel very malleable if you look at it in those terms. So let's say like all of these different realities are happening. All of these different outcomes are there. You know, I have an optimistic worldview, they have a pessimistic worldview. It's almost like truth in that way doesn't even matter, because your orientation is your experience and therefore becomes the truth, your truth. So there's a lot of flexibility in life, but in order to get to that point where you have those options and have those flexibility, you have to rewire your subconscious mind and you have to change your energetic experience. And when you do those things, the world opens doors. So, you know, these friends are living in a vastly different, stark reality than me. One of them I was talking with about atheism, and they are an atheist, and like that's also an interesting view. You know, it wasn't something that resonates with me and feels like it would be a very stark and limited thing, just because the magic of the universe and an energy that I feel really comfortable calling God, which is really not the Christian God or God image. It is really a giant God image of the energy that runs and creates all things in the universe. And yeah, it was really interesting to tap into a little bit of this conversation around atheism and God, and really just being like, oh yeah, like even that worldview, if you believe in a God or a benevolent power or force versus no power or force, wow, like that shapes your reality so much. So pillar 2 is all about subconscious reprogramming and energetics, and I have several systems and several tools that I use to support with that. Some of those are recorded, and we also really do this work in the group as well. We investigate our limiting beliefs, we investigate our subconscious, and we do journeys, somatic work around that to release that, to reprogram things, to move into those crevices of the mind and totally re-establish what is possible for us. And then the last pillar is all around action, because that is another key that I think is sometimes neglected or not used, or, you know, it depends on the manifestation protocol or lineage you're practicing within. But action is the game changer. So I have developed a bunch of actions, a bunch of things in the past 10 years that really create new worlds. And we really do that with accountability, with doing this clarifying energetics, and then taking incredible action with support, with accountability, and with systems that allow you to bring your vision into being. Because that is really what moves the needle, is stepping into the realm of action and creation and saying, yeah, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to create this thing. And I love supporting people in not only discovering what actions are right for them at this moment, and once you do this process and really get into it together, it becomes clear. You often know exactly what to do. You might just not have the space or accountability or courage or whatever it is to do it. So, yeah, it's super powerful and really an exciting moment when it comes together and you're able to create this plan. And, you know, every time I move to step away from this work, I am pulled back into it, because this is exactly what I needed in my 20s. It's often still what I need now. This system is still what I lean on all the time to create anything in my own life and world and work. And I believe in it so wholeheartedly, because it speaks for itself when you really apply these tools and these experiences. It really changes lives. As your trajectory changes everything. And so I'm excited to continue to speak to this in new ways, to really share what this work is, how it moves, what is possible. Yeah, really take it to the next level, because there's a lot of things to do. We need you. In my extremely optimistic view and world orientation, this is the most exciting time to be alive. We have so many resources, so many tools, so much at our fingertips, our disposal. It's amazing to see people fighting for their limitations and how committed we are to the stories that keep us really small, that keep us really stuck, that keep us broke and confused and in that loop that feels really bad. And it's been really powerful to help people, help women specifically, to really break out of that loop. And, you know, my hope is that, especially with all the women I spoke to this last round, to really have them break out of their loops, their limiting beliefs. You know, mostly people don't sign up because of finances, but I have so many plans and ways to do it that make it honestly very affordable. And I know that staying stuck costs way more in the end than stepping into something new and opening revenue streams. Like, this is my specialty. It really is helping people find things right away to begin making money. I've scaled my friend's company with her to $50,000 a month. We have so many limitations on what's possible, and that is the limitation right there, is just thinking that you can't do it and that it's not possible for you, or having judgments around money. There's a lot of money blocks that I work on and help to identify, but money is wildly abundant. There's a lot of it out there. There's a lot of people with tons of it, and it's really stepping into a new paradigm around that, because it's easier to create money than it's ever been, and also really, really looking at that relationship, like need versus want, really claiming the desires, leaving the needs, really getting really clear on the ways that you are speaking, the ways that you are blocking, complaining, judging. There's some really common ones that are there, and I've rarely seen people with those stories break through without the willingness to say, you know what? I don't want to be stuck anymore. I'm willing to set down my own preconceived notions, my own ego, my own projections in order to do something totally new, to 10x my life, to 10x my income, to 10x my value, to 10x who I am as a person, because they want to, not because they need to. And really working with people who are at the leading edge of that. I really want to help people who are stuck, but I am more and more finding that people who are stuck tend to choose to stay there until they reach a moment of crisis that either, they go deeper into it, or they're finally willing to put down all of the ideas that are holding them hostage, essentially. And I'm saying all of this with so much love and compassion and warmth and care, and really not with judgment, but with the desire to help people. And I just have so much experience with this within myself and within others of what moves the needle. And I am so lucky to know so many successful people who have created so many things, and those habits are something that you can create too. This is not inherent. This is learned behavior. This is ways of being flexible and open. And my specialty is learning to do these things and work with your soul's path, because it's both. It's creating something totally new and different, and really choosing something that is going to absolutely radically transform your entire life, and understanding that each of our souls have a different path and trajectory. It is not one size fits all. I understand that path, and that the soul has a very unique arc and experience in this life for each of us. And I like to use this work with your soul's path, because I think that, yes, our souls have sort of contracts and things that we're meant to do in this life, and I don't think that those are things that we can run from. And there's ways to move some of that energy, to lean into your most abundant life and timeline and experience. But you have to want that. And my heart gets broken every single time I work with someone who, in the end, doesn't want that, because it's possible for all of us in our own unique, beautiful, powerful, incredible ways. So if you are curious about this work, if you have some willingness to, put down the things that aren't working, have some willingness to let go of the mindsets that are keeping you where you are, and if you really want to transform your life, transform your existence, move into a greater world and realm and possibility, I would love to work with you. I love working with people who want to change and are open and willing to trying something different once they get to the point where they realize that old keys don't open new doors. You have to change something. You have to become untrackable to the patterns that have created your life so far. You have to change your energy to change your life. And it's fully possible. I've done it so many times. And yeah, I'm excited for you. If you want to join the waitlist for the fall program, you can at the link below. Big love.